Hello, this is Mr. Burston. Welcome to the first in a series of Inventor tutorials. This Inventor tutorial is Inventor 01, Extrude. This tutorial assumes that you have not used Inventor before, so if you need a fresh start, this is where to start, alright? Right now I'm just on my desktop with the wonderful TF2 map behind me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over and open up Autodesk Inventor Professional 2024. Yours might be an earlier version. That is okay. Very little changes between each of the versions. Now I'm going to double click on it. Inventor will begin starting up. Once you reach a screen like this, you may see some files right here, or you may see something like this. Regardless, you're going to go up into the corner and you're going to click on File. Now what you're going to do is you're going to hover your mouse over New. Note, I did not click New. You're going to hover your mouse over New, and then you're going to click Part. If you clicked New, that is okay. You can also click Standard, and then click Create. I'm going to hit Cancel on this. I'm going to hit File, hover over New, and click Part. I'm waiting for Inventor to start. Now Inventor brings me to this 3D page. Once I see that everything over here has loaded up, I know that I am ready to go. On some versions of Inventor, you will be started in sketch mode automatically. In my version of Inventor, I do not start in sketch mode. You will know that you start in sketch mode if you see two lines going across your screen right now. If you don't, that is okay. Simply follow these steps. We're going to start 2D sketch by clicking this plus button right here. It's going to give me my 3 planes to work with. I like working on the XY plane to start any new sketch, which is also known as the front plane. So I'm going to click on the XY plane. Now, let's go over some camera controls right now. If you did not know, your scroll wheel can be used for more than just zooming in and out. On Inventor, things are a little backwards. You zoom out by scrolling up, you zoom in by scrolling down. In order to move my camera around or to pan my camera, I'm going to press in on the scroll wheel like a mouse button. And then I can move my mouse around to move my camera around while holding down the middle mouse button. I can also use this camera up here for my different camera controls. If I hit the home button, I see that we are working in 3D space still. But when you are working with sketches, it is always best to look straight on at your sketch. So I want to look straight on at the front. If you are seeing something like this, where there are no lines on the screen, that is a problem if you are in sketch mode. You should click the home button and see what plane you are currently working with. Again, if you are following along, you should be working on the front plane. Let's start by going over some of the tools that we have available to us while we are in sketch mode. I see up here that I have a line, circle, arc, and rectangle tool to start with. Today, I'm just going to work with the rectangle tool. I want to work on making a castle right now. So, I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. Note that I am not clicking the down arrow on the rectangle tool. There are lots of different rectangles that we could make, but I don't want to make all those rectangles. I just want to make a 2-point rectangle, all right? And now I have this these little coordinates, that X and Y there. I have a yellow dot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a rectangle in the very center of my workspace here. I like starting in the center because I think it makes it easier to work with things later on. Now today our goal is to make a castle. So I'm going to start with a rather big box. We'll see how big here in a moment, but I'm going to start with a big box, and then we're going to add and subtract from that box to help make it look like a castle. Start by clicking once in the center and then moving your mouse over to the side here. I can see that I already have a box, and I have 2 numbers defining how big the box is on each side. It is important as we are working on Inventor to define how big each side is. So, I'm going to start with the top top number here that is already highlighted, and I'm going to type in the number 10. Inventor always works in inches. So I'm going to type in 10, and then I'm going to press the Tab key to move to my other dimension. Notice that my line automatically snapped to 10 inches, and I now see a little lock symbol. That means that that dimension is locked in. This other dimension here, I'll make that one 8 inches. I have a 10-inch by 8-inch castle. We're starting big. Once I'm happy with both of those, I'm going to hit Enter to complete my rectangle. You'll know that you've done everything right if you see all of these lines are black. But say that you don't see that all of those lines are black. Maybe you click too fast. It's also important to go over how we can get these dimensions without doing that. I'm going to undo everything that I just did and show you a different way of making a rectangle. Start again with a rectangle. I'm starting down in the center, and then I'm just going to click wherever I want to. Notice that I don't see that 10 and 8 anymore. Now I'm going to stop using the rectangle tool. I can stop using any tool that I want to if I'm doing something that I don't like or I'm using a tool I don't want to use. I'm going to hit the Escape key. Now I'm going to click on the Dimension tool for general dimension. I'm going to click on my top line here. This Dimension tool is going to allow me to define how long this line is. Once I click on this line, I can click anywhere to start making that dimension. Now it gives me those options. I'm going to type in 10, and I can click the check mark, or I can hit Enter. Once I have defined that, I'm going to use my Dimension tool again, click my line over here, click again, and I'm going to define this one at 8 inches. There we go. 2 different ways of making the same box. Now, I'm going to finish my sketch by hitting Finish Sketch. I see that my camera zoomed in a little bit too much and I don't really like that. What I can do though is I can go up to my camera cube right here and I can click the Home button. That will make sure that my entire model fits on the screen. Now, the meat and potatoes of this video are big button over here that says Extrude. Extruding is like taking a filing cabinet and pulling the drawer out of the filing cabinet. I'm going to pull this square into 3D space, starting by clicking Extrude. This should be the only sketch that you have, so Inventor will be smart and automatically select this for you as something that you want to extrude. We're going to see later that it doesn't always automatically select it for you. So, once you have Extrude, I'm going to go ahead and set this to 10 inches. Now note that when I type in 10IN, I can type in any unit of measurement that I want, as long as I know the 2 or 1 letter shorthand for it. For instance, I could type in FT for feet, and we see that it goes 10 feet out. I could type in MM for millimeters, and we see that it's very, very thin at just 10 millimeters. I could type in cm for centimeters. I could type in m for meters. And I could even type in km for kilometers. However, it's going to give me a small error and say that that is out of range. But what's not out of range? 6 kilometers. I can make a square that is 10 inches by 8 inches by 6 kilometers. I could also make it by 6 miles. But I don't want a big, long cube like this that's 6 miles long, so I'm going to zoom back in on my original cube, and I'm going to change this all back to 10 inches. And I hit OK. There we go. We have made our first cube. But this doesn't look much like a castle, so let's make it look like one. I'm going to click on the top of my cube so that it's highlighted, then I'm going to start another 2D sketch. My camera will automatically orient to the top of the cube. Using my middle mouse button to move the camera around and my scroll wheel to zoom in and out, so that way I have an easier time of making the little fortresses on top. We can make more than one rectangle at a time. Let's make a bunch right now. Here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, here's 5, here's 6, here's 7, and here's 8. Now all these rectangles look nice, but I want to make sure that my castle looks as best as it can be. So I'm going to start using the dimension tool and make sure that all of these different squares look similar to one another. Let's start with the squares in the corner. I want to make each of these 2 inches by 2 inches. So I click each line that I want to make 2 inches, and I make it 2 inches by typing in 2 and hitting enter. You may notice that some of my squares adjust, and notice that when I tried to make a dimension here, I clicked and I clicked again, it gave me an error. This error, adding this dimension will overconstrain the sketch, indicates to me that this is already 2 inches wide. Back when I was making the square earlier, I accidentally lined it up with the original square that I made up here, but really that worked in my favor. It automatically made it 2 inches. But let's continue. I'll click on this line over here, make it 2 inches. I'll click on this line up here and make it 2 inches. When I see that all lines are black, that means that I have fully constrained or fully dimensioned that particular shape. Let's focus on these squares in the middle now. I'm going to make each of these 2 inches as well in length, but I'm not necessarily going to make them 2 inches like I did before. I just made a mistake. Did you catch that? I did not click the line. I clicked the middle dot. If you do that on your dimension, on your sketch, hit escape so that you stop doing that. We don't want to use the middle dot. We want to dimension the line itself. After hitting escape, I'm going to click on the dimension tool again to get it back. Remember, click on the line, not the dot. I click on the line, I click 2, and 2 down here as well. Now, I don't want these to be 2 inches again, so this time around I'm going to say, I want them to be 0.5 inches. 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. One last thing. I see that all of these are kind of just a little bit off-centered. So what I'm going to do is unlock another function of my dimension tool. Before I was just clicking one line and then clicking anywhere in open space to complete it. What if instead I click this line first, then click this line over here? Now I am defining the distance between those 2 lines. Let's set this at 2 inches. That centers it pretty nicely. Let's do that with the rest of them. 2 inches. 2 inches. Move my camera down. And let's see. Ooh, we may have a problem here. This one says it's already constrained to 2 inches. All the lines are black. It does say that it would over-constrain it. So we can just hit cancel. Now I'm going to finish my sketch. Now I'm going to click on Extrude. Now you notice that it did not automatically select each of these squares. That's okay. I'm going to click on each of them myself. Click, 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 click. And then let's make sure that I click on the last one by rotating my camera. Again, I can rotate my camera by pressing and holding Shift and using the middle mouse button. I can rotate my camera freely by pressing and holding Shift and hitting in on the middle mouse button. Click the last one. Now, these are coming up far too high for me, so let's modify the distance to just be 2 inches. Now we're looking a little bit more like a castle. One last thing, I want a door to my castle. So I'm going to click on the side that favors me the most. I'll click on the front side here. Click on Start 2D Sketch, and now I'm going to make a doorway. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool, click on the bottom here, and then bring this up. I'm going to use these numbers here to go ahead and define how big I want my door. We'll say that I want it 3 by 4.5 inches. I kind of like how that looks. I hit enter after hitting 4.5. Now I'm going to use my dimension tool and make sure that this is in the center. I recall that this entire thing across is 10 inches. I know that 3 of those inches are being taken up right now by this 3-inch mark here. So I believe that 3.5 inches will get me in the center. And that would be correct. 3.5 plus 3.5 over here is 7, plus 3 is 10, making my total 10 inches. I hit finish, and I hit extrude. But this time, I don't want it to come out, I want it to go back in. There are two different ways that we can do this. Number one is by going up here and looking at the behavior section and looking at direction. Right now that I see that default is selected with an arrow pointing down to the corner. Instead, I want it to be flipped and pointing up and away into the opposite corner. Now we see that it's cutting into my castle and making a sort of doorway. I could have done that another way though. Let's flip the direction back. I can also grab a hold of this orange arrow here and push it back into my castle. I want this to again go a specific amount, so we'll say 3 inches. Doesn't have to be an actual door, just something that looks like a door. And I will hit enter. Well, there we have it. I have a nice castle here. For your assignment, remember that I want a total of 5 extrusions. I made 1, 2, 3 extrusions on this one, so add on 2 more extrusions. Maybe you can add something to the center of your castle, or maybe you could add some windows on the sides of your castle to get yourself to 5 extrusions. If you have any questions about how to use the extrude function, you can always ask Mr. Burston during class. Hope you have a good day.